At this time, I'd like to introduce my sponsor and tonight's speaker, Billy.
My name is Bill. I'm definitely an alcoholic. I didn't know that a long time. If you're new here, I just thought I was a little weird. I want to thank Mike and Maureen for asking me to come down again. It's always a pleasure to speak someplace, but when you ask the second time, it really makes you sort of feel good. Thank Jeff for coming down with me, my good friend David from Fulton for hanging out with me the last couple of days. I do a lot of things in AA. I don't want to just think this is negative, but this is one of the least things I do, is speak. I do a detox center. I do a thing called the Samaritan House. And I do a thing called the Big Book. I do a big book study every Sunday morning at 9:30. I'm a very active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think that's the reason I'm your speaker tonight. I just celebrated 25 years, and I was the only guy left of my group. Well, I was the only guy left of my group. Nobody else took 25 years during that month. Where did they all go? There was a lot of them in the room that night raised their hand as newcomers the night that I was there. And they all said they were alcoholic. I didn't say that. I said, my name is Bill. Don't bother me. I'm just hanging out here. I got a lot of heat on me. I'm not going to stay here very long, so, I don't want you shaking my hands, hugging me, none of that bull crap. Just keep your distance, and they did. People in Alcoholics Anonymous will let you sit there in a chair and die if that's what you want to do, and that's what I wanted to do. And so if you're new here, and you're lucky enough to be sitting in a room of Alcoholics Anonymous, this can be the best day of your life. You can be the luckiest person in the world. I'm not one of those, I do say that I love Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've never heard my brother say, I love insulin. I've never heard that. He's never said, we're going to have a birthday cake. I've been taking insulin for 15 years. He doesn't do that. He just gets up and takes insulin twice a day, watches his diet, and that's the reason he's still alive. The one next to me, the brother next to me, also had diabetes. And he didn't want to take his insulin. He didn't do the right thing, and he died in a diabetic coma. When I took my 25-year cake, it's almost like patting myself on the back for saving my own life. That's what I have. Now, for you people that just have a little alcoholism, I'm not your man. If I take one drink, I am a dead man. I will never, ever be able to walk back through that door of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm smart. I've been here long enough and smart enough to know that. I had a good friend of mine a couple of years ago, Mr. AA in Las Vegas. What happened, he started having some work done, just like I'm doing some teeth work, and he got on pain medication, 23 years. And this guy was like Mr. AA. And he got hooked on them darn things, stole some prescriptions and didn't tell nobody, and started doing some things. And this guy that he confined in died. He had nobody to talk to. And very slowly he just slid right out of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he couldn't come back in here and raise his hand, not after being a speaker and all that. And he tied a bag around his head and put a rubber band around the bag to make sure he couldn't breathe. 23 years sober, living with untreated alcoholism. This is the most hideous disease in the face of the earth. If you got any other kind of disease, if you got anything, cancer or anything, everybody feels sorry for you. If you're alcoholic and you go back out, you will damage 25 people before you die. We just had a friend after 8 years that I sponsored go back out and picked up a drink. His drug of choice was heroin. It was no time he was back doing the same thing and just run over everybody. The book says we're like a tornado going through people's lives. So that's what I have. I have a fatal disease, and the only reason that I am a very, very active member of Alcoholics Anonymous is I wound up a life that I never dreamed of. I was raised right. I just turned left. There was 4 boys. There was 4 boys. I can't blame it on my family. I found out later on I was from a dysfunctional family, but they told me it functioned real good right after I left. Raised 4 boys. They got one of them out of jail a lot. The other 3 have never seen the inside of a jail. They do what Dr. Silkworth does, what he talks about. They drink with impunity. I had to go look these words up. All these guys went to college. They all have educations. I don't. I was the guy out behind the schoolhouse pitching pennies and drinking, making fun of the guys that's inside the schoolhouse doing what they're supposed to, because I didn't want to be one of those, you know. I just wanted to be cool. I didn't even know what cool was, but that's what I wanted to be. I never felt a part of that family. My father invented the first machine to separate the leaf from the stem of the tobacco. My father was a brilliant man. My mother's one of the sweetest people you ever met. She had a third-grade education. Her father accidentally, when he was cleaning a gun for all those kids, he was cleaning an empty gun. It went off and killed him. She had to quit school, the two oldest kids, and she was one of them. She was smarter than my father. My father was more intelligent than my mother. But my mother was a smart lady. She didn't have an education. But boy, she was anything but dumb, you know. After I got sober, I told her I'm trying to understand a book that I can't understand. I need to know the words. And I said, if it ain't the, it, or the, I don't understand it. So she handed me her dictionary that she used. She says, here, look them up. I told her, I said, these are supposed to save my life and keep me out of jail. She didn't hear save my life, but she heard keep me out of jail. She said, here, look them up. So I started reading. Guy told me to read the first 164 pages of the book, and it will save my life, and I did. And I ran into another guy, and he says, you need to start with a doctor's opinion. You need to understand what Dr. William Silkworth is talking about, because I heard about all the inferiority complexes, and I always felt less than and all that. And that's true. But I work with mental patients also that has all these feelings, and they don't have alcoholism because they do not have the phenomenon of craving. Now, my brothers can drink with impunity. I looked that word up. What does that mean? It means my brothers can drink without consequence or without punishment. Boy, I can't. I might, I might go get drunk, get home, get the car in the driveway. But more than likely, I'll be in the black and white or Phoenix, Arizona. I did that once. I just want to travel. When I get drunk, I just want to move. I don't know what it is. My feet get moving, and I was about 15 or 16 years old. I was raised in North Carolina, and I was at a bootlegger's house, and I was trying to talk to this girl, and I wasn't getting very far. You don't do good when you're going to do, and she had what I wanted, and I was trying to figure out some way to get it, and I couldn't, and I was just standing there like a lump, like I always do. I was always the last kid chosen and everything. Never had any kind of confidence in myself. I knew you had it going on, and I knew I didn't. I didn't know what that feeling was. I always did really good if I tell you where I excelled. I excelled in the woods with that old dog and a fishing pole and a rifle or something, hunting and fishing. I just excelled. I did good unless you showed up. And then I knew I had to talk, and I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know. I did everything good. I just didn't do people. And it's hard to live if you don't do people. It's just because there's a bunch of them. You know what I mean? It's just really hard. And so what happened that day is really simple for me. I'm William Silkworth. He's one of my favorite people. Guy gave me a big glass of white whiskey, and I drank it. I was at a conference. I spoke at a conference one time. I heard this guy say that he drank this whiskey. He could feel his fingernails grow. Now, this is what he said. And I ain't going to call him a liar, but it didn't do that for me. Then he felt his hair stand up on the back of his head. And there's like an explosion happened. God, that ain't what happened. In about, I don't know exactly long. There was a period of time. You know what happened? For the first time in my life, I felt comfortable. That's all. Alcohol is a cure for alcoholism. Alcohol just made me, I was like cooking. And I knew it was a good thing. You know why? About 10 minutes later, she's in my car. So I know whatever's in that bottle, that's what I need, And I'd like to tell you that I went out and grabbed it the next day and all that, and I didn't do it. I didn't. I drank every chance I got. My folks didn't believe in smoking, drinking, cussing, doing anything. I'm in one of them southern religions, you know what I mean? When you get up in the morning, you're wrong, and you just go from there. And they tell you to think it is just like doing it. So I figured I better hurry up and do it, because I got to pay for it anyway, because I'm thinking it all the time. And I tell myself, don't think about that. And the more I tell myself, don't think about that, the more I think about that. You know, and I can't shut this thing down. This thing's like, I heard Clancy say one time, if he could, you know, if I could have got it down to dual personality, I'd have been cool. But I had a whole bunch of them in there going, you know. And alcohol is a cure for that at first. But I had what Dr. William Silkworth has. And this is what makes it, this is what separates me from my neighbor and from non-alcoholics. And it's very important that I keep understanding. And I tell you something, I read more today on the first step than I do on the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, and all of them put together. I stay in the first step. Because if I ever forget that I'm an alcoholic and think that I can take one drink or one pill or one shot or one hit and get away with it, I am a dead man. And so I stay right in and remind myself that, and this is all I tell myself, Billy, if you take one drink, you dead. I don't tell myself, you might get back or you might go to jail. No, Billy, you're dead. You will never come back in that room after speaking, doing all the things you've done, raise your hand and say, all the years I've been doing this was all bull. I could not do that. But I have the phenomenal craving. Once I pick up a drink, this is what happens. I heard a guy say he don't know what's going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen if I pick up a drink. I don't know what my actions are going to be, but I know what's going to happen. You know what it is? I'm going to have another drink. It's just that simple. That's all it is to it. I'm going to have another drink. I don't know what your drug of choice is, but let me tell you what mine is. More. I'm going to do all I got. Then I'm going to do all you got. Then I do that stupid crap. I steal from somebody. It's nothing personal. I'm just out. I'm out of cash, and I got to do something. Then I go to jail because I need some more. You know, and everybody wants to take it personal. You know, and my buddy, I stole from him. You know, and nothing personal. I was just empty, and he had some. So I stole some of his. And I finally convinced him that the bartender took it. That the bartender shortchanged him, even though he sort of knew I did it. But that's just the way it is. I joined the Navy, see the world, became a drunk, was arrested 11 times while I was in service. Got busted because in Japan you can do a lot of things, but I missed the boat. You can't miss the boat in the Navy. You can do a lot of things, but you can't miss the ship, and the ship left and I wasn't on it. I meant to have been on it. But I was in Iwakuni, Japan, and they had those houses over, and I loved those houses. And because in those houses they had the two things I needed. They had alcohol and girls. And I needed the alcohol so I could go get the girls. Because I can't go get the girls without alcohol, because I'm too afraid. My whole life is built on fear. I'm afraid of you. If you're black, I'm really scared of you. I know you get tougher than me, meaner than me, bigger than me in all areas, and I know all them things, you know. It's just that's just the way my mind works. I'm just scared of everything. With alcohol at first, I was no longer afraid. It took the fear away from me. If you're alcoholic like me, it will turn on you. I could have came to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 19 years old, but I didn't do that. If any of you know anything about Long Beach, there's a pike down there. There used to be an old pike. That's where I hung out. I didn't hang out in, you know, George's or nothing like that. I'm down in the dirty bars. You know, we seek lower companionship. I even go below that, you know, and that's what I am. You know, a lot of guys, I love these speakers up here that was lawyers and going places. I was a kid that was going nowhere and then went downhill from there. You know what I mean? I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't going to college. I wasn't doing anything. I was just trying not to be that. You know, I just didn't want to be that. Later on, when I was like 23 or 24, then I'd go settle down. But anyway, I'm saying that there was an old park across the street from up there in Long Beach. I don't even know if it's there no more, called Williams Park, and I used to pass out in that park. And I got up one morning, and I got up before. In California, it's not like Las Vegas. They close the darn bars down here. I mean, that's insane, but they do. 2 o'clock in the morning, they close them here, and that one opened up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And these are the things that I remember, and that's the only reason I remember, and that's the reason I tell you. I only tell you what I remember, and I try to tell you exactly like it happened. Maybe I'm a little off. I hope I'm not. I ask God just to let me, please don't blow up no story or take nothing away from it, because I might miss helping the one guy that I come down here to help. And this is what I did. I got that morning. It was before the bar opened. I'm standing outside that bar. I'm 19 years old. You have to be 21 years old to drink in California. They never asked me for ID. I don't know if I needed I looked like I needed a drink or I just looked older. I never know. First of all, I don't bother you. What I do is I drink. I don't start fights. I don't do anything. I just drink. I drink to try to get enough courage to go get her. But most of the time I drink right past her. I don't mean to. My intentions are, especially at 19, you know what I'm saying? At 19, but I drink right past her. By the time I get ready to get her, I'm so drunk she ain't having nothing to do with this, you know what I'm saying? But that ain't my intention. I don't understand why, because I wasn't a real bad-looking kid at 19, you know, and I could talk when I had some alcohol in me. And I'm standing out front of that bar that morning with all them old guys. You know I'm talking about 35, 40 years old. And they out there shaking like that, right? And they got their chains together. And I'm looking at these guys thinking, Jesus Christ, what's the matter with you guys? Can't you see what the hell you're doing with yourself? What are you, some kind of a nut? God, are you going to go get the same thing that's killing you? Look at you, you know. And they stand there right waiting for the bar to open. And they walk in, you know, I'm Mr. Cool. I'm 19. At 19, you kick back. At 35, I didn't kick back. But at 19, I'm still kicking back. It comes back quick. And I go in and order, you know, give me a shot and a short beer, and don't go away. And I'd hit it 2 or 3 times and take the short beer. And I thought about the bartender later on. Just in the last couple of years, I thought about him, and I couldn't understand. I finally figured it out. He must have been a pretty cool guy, because when these guys would go get their drink, he'd pour their drink in an old-fashioned glass, right, so they could get it to their lips without spilling it. And I'm sitting there looking at him thinking, my God, if I was like that, wow, I wouldn't be doing that crap. The only sad thing about that thing is if you walk in for the camera and you take a picture, right, I'm right in the middle of it. Isn't it amazing I can see what's wrong with you, and I can't see what's wrong with me? I have a 31-year-old daughter that's been doing this thing since she was 12. And she talks about all them people, and she just got fired again 2 weeks ago and couldn't pass the drug test. And it was the people she worked with. They didn't understand her. I had a lot of bosses that didn't understand me, boy, I'll tell you that. And, I remember telling this one guy, I'll give him a 2 weeks notice. He says, no, please, just leave now. You know? And I tell you what happened. My father, we was raised in North Carolina. We didn't have electric lights or anything. We had gasoline lanterns. We had outdoor plumbing. And my father went in business, got real successful, and moved to Florida, bought a big home. When I come out of the service, he had a big home with a living room upstairs and a living room downstairs, a lot of bathrooms. He went in the car business, got very successful. And I came back and I did what the book said. I straightened out for about 6 months. Got a job at General Electric, and it just excelled. You know, we're like the guy you fill up with a balloon, you fill up with helium, you know what I mean? But we just take off. And I got it promoted so fast, it was just unreal. I went in, and all they had was a janitor job. I said, I'll take it. They said, well, that's what you got. You know, you look like you're qualified. I said, that's okay. If that's all you got, I'll take it. And I went in there in no time, and I was in there, and I wound up working in a lab and just excelled, you know. And then all of a sudden, you know, the balloon just starts to fade, and I was trying to control my drinking, and I did good for about 6 months. And if you have the same disease that I do, that's a pretty long period. You know, if you try to enjoy it, you can't control it. If you try to control it, you can't enjoy it. And I got tired of controlling it, so I just started drinking again. And if you miss 5 days down there, they fire you. I missed 28, they wouldn't fire me, so I just quit. Just got tired of the 9 to 5 and went to work on a fishing boat, and they fired me off of that. And so I started moving. I lived in 5 different states, and at the age of 28, I went home and told my mother, I said, I'm going to Las Vegas. My mother loved me more than anything in the world. And she looked at me and she says, we don't know what to do for you. She said, I'm going to help you pack. And I came over them hills in Las Vegas, and I thought, man, this is cool. This is it. Guy told me, he said, go to Las Vegas, Billy. They got 24-hour bars and showgirls. I said, on my way. Low Ford that didn't hardly make it, and I wound up, Shylock wound up taking that off of me. And I came into town, and I did what I always do, went over to have a beer, and I had about $200 on me to my name. That's all I had. Didn't know anybody. And when I woke up, I was broke, didn't know a soul, had one phone number and called him, and he let me sleep on his couch for about 2 months. And I got a job. My one brother owns his own company. The other brother's a head troubleshooter for Shipley Chemicals out of Boston. He lives in Florida, but works for a company out of Boston. His retirement, and they get just stuck in his retirement. It's more than I've ever made. The other kid put all the international airports in for the U.S. federal government. I got a job making $1 an hour as a game starter. They call them shills. And I thought I made a score. $1 an hour. What alcoholism does, if you got the same disease I do, lets you slide right down and you can't see what happened. You know what it is? Alcoholism has the ability to let you adjust each time you come down. At first, it's sort of strange, you know what I mean? Because, you know, you go from a big home to a little bitty apartment, from a little bitty apartment to a guy's couch, to a little couch to a little bitty room on 6th and Carson, right across from Skid Row. If I'd been on the other side of Fremont Street, I'd have been in a lot of trouble. That's Skid Row. But I'm 1 block up. And I can look down at them guys. Boy, they got problems. You know what I mean? Them guys are really, they sleep in them 50-cent bunks and $1 bunks. They pay $1 a night or 50 cents a night. Now, if I was on that side of Fremont Street, I'd do something about this stuff. But I'm on this side. I got a room a little bit bigger than this podium, $25 a week at the 6th and Carson Hotel, and I still go by there quite a bit, see where I used to live. Remind myself, if I take one drink, I'd be lucky if I wound up there, but I'm sure I won't. Walking up down Fremont Street, and I wound up, I come home, and they had the slats on my door because I hadn't paid my rent, and everything I owned was in that room. It was 2 white shirts that wasn't white, 2 pair of black pants that one of them had holes in the back, but it's all I owned, and they wouldn't give me my stuff. If you looked at the stuff, you wouldn't give $3 for it, but it was worth everything to me because it was all that I owned. And so I took that money. I had about $3 or $4, and I needed $25 to get my room, and I went down and got a drink for free. Ain't really free for the alcoholic, but they give me a drink, and I started shooting craps, and I won a lot of money, a lot, about $70. Now, if you broke and you're on the street, $70 is a lot of money. So I went back and flashed it at that guy, you know what I mean? Just let him know that he just kicked a guy out with plenty of money. You know what I'm saying? And he gave me my stuff, and I gave him the $25, and then I went to give him 25 more, and he said, no, you can't live here no longer. So I put my money in my pocket, and I got all my stuff and put it in a carnation box, and I started walking down Fremont Street. Now, just went 2 years earlier, I was living in the home with a living room upstairs and a living room downstairs. And now I'm walking down Fremont Street with everything I owned in the carnation box. And if you would ask me how I'm doing, I would tell you it's not that bad. You know why? Because I had right here what I needed. I had $40, $50 in my pocket, so it's not that bad. If I would have been broke, wow, now I got a problem. Can you talk to me? I just sort of need a little something here. I never understood how horrible that sounds. It's not that bad. The alcoholic mind never has the ability to see the picture. I can only see what you're doing. I can never, ever see what I do. That's the reason it's so important, if you're new here, get yourself a sponsor who has a sponsor, who knows the big book, who understands it, and who does active in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know how it is. 20% of the people in AA do all the work. Find that 20% and go after them. And so now I never understood it until about 2 years ago. My daughter come home. She'd been living in the street. She's a gorgeous girl at one time, but she weighed about 80 pounds. She loves vodka, Quavo, Go, and Speed. What a combination. I understand that combination, too. But it sure keeps the weight off. You get low body fat with that stuff. She come home, she asked me if she could come in and take a shower. Said she hadn't had a shower in 7 or 8 days, and could she come in the house and take a shower? And I said, yes, you can. But you know you can't stay here. And she said, Dad, I know that. It's the only child I have. While she was there, she says, is it okay if I eat? I said, sure, go to the refrigerator and help yourself. And I watched this kid eat about 4 times in 5 hours, tearing my heart up. It's amazing how I can help you and I can't help her. She'll get her help the same place I got mine from people like you, total strangers, same place I got mine from. My mother and father tried every way in the world to help me. When she's all done, she come out and I said, you know, Debbie, I've never seen you look this bad. This is the worst I've ever seen you look. She said, Dad, I'm living in the back of pickup, and we got a mattress in there now, and it's not that bad. I thought, right, honey, the mattress makes a difference. She said, Dad, you don't understand. Sleeping on the bed, that pickup is hard. And the mattress, I said, that's right, darling. The mattress makes all the difference. sleep in the back of a pickup, and now you got a mattress, and it's not that bad. And I thought, boy, how many times did I say that? You know, and I didn't say that you were an idiot. Can't you see what you're doing? I don't say that to newcomers, and I don't say that to her. I said, I love you more than anything in the world, but I can't help you. I can help somebody else, but I can't help you. Alfie used to say that God gives the little houses little crosses, and he gives big crosses to big houses. And the big houses are the blessed ones. They get to show that this thing works no matter what goes on in your life. Every now and then I tell God to take this big cross off and give me a little, and I'm tired of it. But it just doesn't happen that way, you know. So I went through that Fremont Street thing and started living on Fremont Street, and I met this lady, and she had a car and an apartment. And boy, was that a step up for a guy like me. And so I married her. She sort of drank like me, and I married her. And after I was married for a month, I wound up in the hospital down here in California, and they told me, I'm 29 years old, and they told me I'm not going to live any longer, that my life is over, that my liver's shot. And I remember that guy sitting on the side of my bed, and he told me, he says, Billy, you can't drink anymore. You're all done. And I thought, okay, if drinking is a problem, let's just quit. If you're new here, maybe in the first 4 or 5 years, this is what it's all about. If alcohol is a problem, then everybody who drinks alcohol would have the same problem that I do. The book talks 3 different types. It talks about the normal drinker, the heavy drinker. There's a guy who can drink a lot of alcohol. He will lose a few years of his life. He will have massive problems. I knew a kid like that. He could drink more than me. But he can stop and even moderate if the right situation, job or romance or something comes along. In the very next paragraph, it talks about me. What about the real alcoholic? He will be unable to stop. All right? So I would come out of that thing, and I went spent to, some people say 6, some people say 7, some people say 8, I don't know. So I call it 7. I spent the next 7 years not drinking. I did do some chemicals, but have to do something. Can't change the way I feel. I got put on sponsulis by a doctor. I looked it up later on. It's to stop extreme alcoholics from shaking. Not only during the 7 years that I didn't drink did I lose all my friends, I lost all my acquaintances. Didn't nobody want to be. He's talking about irritable, restless, and discontent, and the nastiest son of a gun, boy. I'm telling you, I had it going on, boy. I tell you, everybody was arm lengths from me, and I'd go into the bar once in a while where I used to hang out the old plush horse and make fun of them guys because they wasn't as macho as me, didn't have the willpower as me. Let me tell you something, folks. If you got the same disease that I do, there'll come a morning, there'll come a day, there'll come a night when you will have no mental defense against the first drink. When I play golf one morning, the last thing on my mind when that morning was taking a drink. And when I was playing with the Mantle Brothers. I was playing in the tournaments, playing really good. I was in 3rd place, and I was just really, I didn't wind up in 3rd place, but I wound out. So it was at that day. And Roy or Ray, one of them said, why don't you have a drink? And I said, God, I ain't had one in a long time. And they handed me a beer, and I drank it. And I drank 2 beers that day, and I went home and told my old lady, I said, look, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't want another drink. God, I wasted 7 good years of drinking. She says, you are insane. I said, look at me. I said, there's nothing wrong with me. Everybody was screwed up when they're saying all them things about my drinking. My neighbor said, I heard you had a drink to golf course. Why don't you come over and have a drink? And I said, hell, I'll be right over. And I went over and had 4 drinks, and nothing happened. If you're new here, or you're on your way back, if you pick up a drink, I hope you get fired. I hope your wife kicks you out. I hope the cops pick you up. I hope all kinds of bad things happen to you. Because if it don't, you might tell yourself the same thing I told myself, there's nothing wrong with me. What a sad deal. You know, here was, my mind didn't say, listen, buddy, 2 weeks from now, you'll be a falling down drunk. 14 months from now, you'll be trying to commit suicide. You're going to wind up. And now this time when I started drinking, it was entirely different. I heard a guy from the podium say that he quit drinking, went back. It's like he picked up. That's not my story. My story, it was 50 times worse when I started back. The thing was, when I started drinking again after 7 years of non-drinking, I couldn't get drunk. The more I drank, the sober I'd get. Try that. I went to a meeting one day and I knew I wasn't going to go home. I turned around, there was an old guy behind me, and I asked him to be my sponsor. And all he said to me was, it would be an honor. And before he could say anything, I said, Ted, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do. And I didn't even know I meant that. I didn't even know I meant it. He'd give me some things to do. Like he said, you have to go on the 12-step list. And I said, Ted, I'm not a real alcoholic. Not what the book talks about. He says, tell them that. They'll like that. I said, Ted, you don't understand. I said, you know, I'm so angry, I feel like tearing. He says, tell them that. He says, just don't try to be nothing you're not. If you're new here, don't try to be anything you're not. Just be yourself, whatever it is. And we will accept you just like you are. I know you don't understand that and you don't believe that, but give us a chance. And so people started, well, I went to so many meetings, people started coming up to me, and I started making little cliques. And I told my sponsor, I said, these people are really cliquish. He said, they really are. I said, well, God, he said, why don't you find a clique you like and join it? I said, well, how do you do that? He said, just go sit around them. They'll start talking to you. So there was a whole bunch of guys that like to hunt and fish, and I like to do that. And when I just started sitting around them, and one day they said, we going fishing, you want to go? I said, yeah. And so we going hunting, you want to go? I said, yeah. And we still do. The clique's bigger. I'm sort of one of the leaders of the clique now, you know. And if you find a group you like here, join it. Come and be a part of us. And what they do is they'll sort of grasp you in and make you feel like, you know, like you're somebody, you know. And so I just started going to meetings. I had a lot of trouble. I didn't want to do the steps. I didn't want to do the God thing. And I finally, after 5 years, I did a 4-step. I did a 5th step with my sponsor. And I'm from the South, and please don't be offended, but I'm from the South, and we didn't like Catholics, and we didn't like blacks. I didn't know why. My father said we didn't like Catholics because it was a false religion. They drink and smoke. That's not true anymore, but that's what I was told, you know. And it wasn't a hatred thing. It was just, that's what we was told. And so when I came in the program, now I'm getting some sobriety, and I'm working at these detox centers, and I'm sober quite a while. And I finally, in this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, in the 2nd step, it says this, that we must get rid of all prejudice toward other religions, people, creed, and color. And I've seen that. And I'm sober a long time, and I've seen that. I said, damn, I need to do that, because I don't want to be locked in the pissed off position any longer. I want to, and I found the key, and the key's in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. The book says in the 12 episodes, it says we have a set of principles, spiritual by nature. If we practice in our daily lives, we exclude the obsession to drink, which means push away the obsession to drink, make us happy, useful, and whole. Boy, I don't know about you, but I need to feel useful, and I need to feel whole. I've been an empty shell all my life. So I got on my knees and I started praying to this loving God that I didn't understand for a long time. If you're new here, I was 10 years sober when I started doing daily prayers. I just refused to get my knees dirty. And finally one day, when in desperation, I tried it, and I did a 3rd-step prayer. I would never leave my house or any hotel room or nothing without doing the 3rd, the 7th, and 11th, and I got a big list of people that I pray for. And so, you know, I'm down on my knees, and I kept saying, God, I want to get rid of these things. And it wasn't no big thing. It was just, I'd see somebody do something. I said, well, no wonder he did that. He's black. You know, no wonder he did that. He's Asian. No wonder he did that. He's Jewish. You know? And I said, I need to get rid of this, you know. And so I go to these detox center, and I tell these guys, I said, you know, call me before you get out of here, and you got a better chance. If you go get your girlfriend or anything, you'll probably go back out. But before you leave this detox center, it's a Skid Row detox, give me a call. My phone rang one day, and I picked up the phone. This guy says, you told me to give you a call, so I'm calling. And I said, okay, what's your name? He said, Jerome Jackson. I said, okay, Jerome, what do you look like? He says, I'm black. I said, Jerome, I know that. What you got on? He told me. I said, well, stand out front, and I'll come and pick you up. He was 44 years old. He was out of the hood in Chicago. He got in my truck, and I said, listen, Jerome, when's the last time you listened to country music? He says, I never have. I said, today's your first day. I said, what kind of music do you like? He says, rap. I said, let me tell you where I'm coming from so you'll get an understanding real quick. If I ever get in your car and you change that station from rap to country, I'm going to hit you in the mouth as hard as I can. I said, listen, this is who and what I am. I listen to country. This is who and what you are. You listen to rap. You be who you are, and I'll be who I am, and maybe we both can fill up this gut. So we're driving in my truck. I said, what do you do for a living? I said, well, you got to have some kind of skills. He says, I've never had a job. I almost stopped my truck. I said, how old are you? He says, 44. I said, well, you must have had a W-2 from somewhere. McDonald's? He said, I've never had a job in my life. I've never had a W-2. I said, what the hell did you do for a living? He says, I did drugs and girls since I was 12 years old, and I'm 44. I said, cheese and crackers. I said, all right, we'll get you in the day labor pool. He says, I don't do day labor. I said, whoa, wait a minute. None of this is negotiable. It's not. This contract is over as soon as you don't do what I asked you to do. He says, okay, I'll go to day labor. Let me make this story real short. That was a little over 4 years ago. He went into day labor. We got him into a place called TLC. He wound up getting a place right off a crack alley, a little apartment that you couldn't pay nothing. He got a job at a hospital, Sunrise Hospital, where he was cleaning bedpans and stuff like that. He went to school and learned about slot machines. And I watched this guy. He started sponsoring guys. And he shows up at a meeting. He doesn't have a car, and he still doesn't, because he's got such a past to clean up. We ain't got it all cleaned up yet. But he'd get up 5 o'clock in the morning to ride a bus, change buses to be at the meeting at 7 o'clock. All the guys that he sponsored has to be there 30 minutes early, and they have to stay 30 minutes late. He's a much tougher sponsor than I am. A week and a half ago, about a month and a half ago, he just got a promotion. He went into a hotel. There's working in the slots. He's now a assistant shift boss at a hotel in Las Vegas. Monster raise. Not only that, he's become one of the closest friends I've ever had in my life. He calls me old dude. When he picks up the phone, and instead of saying goodbye, he goes, one day, and my daughter just cracks up when he calls. He said, I'm just checking in, old dude, look out. So one day I'm on the phone, and he calls, and he goes, I'll see you tomorrow, old dude, and look out. I said, wait a minute, chill out a minute, Jerome. What the hell, you can't say goodbye. What's this look out? He says, you know, man, look out for yourself. Look out for God's kids. I said, that's cool, look out. He's one of the most purest people I've ever met in my whole life. And so that's how God has worked in my life, and since him I've got, it was like a flock of them. God says, okay, here, we're going to see what you're made of. And I tell you, it's been the most precious thing I've had in my life. Alcoholics Anonymous, in the front of the book says, we're a group of people who would not normally mix. But this big empty hole we got that you can't fill up makes us thing. This loving God in my life takes such good care of me. If you knew here in the 12 by 12, it says the more that you learn to do the third step, the more you depend on God, the more independent you come. See, I thought I was really slow with my prayers and everything. I was coming back tuna fishing about a year and a half ago, and we put one of old Chuck Chamberlain's tape in. I got boxes of tapes, and we just stuck one of his in. And he said that after 16 and a half years, he really realized he took the third step. Chuck Chamberlain. I thought, wow, I'm not as slow as I thought I was. Which means that everything in God's divine order, anything good that happens in God's divine order, and everything that bad happens in God's divine order, all I do is keep my head up and keep doing. Let me tell you a quick story about my daughter, and then I'll close this thing down. A couple years ago, like I told you, I'm an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't do commitments in October. I don't take no speaking engagements, nothing in October. For you animal activists, you can cut this part out of the tape out. I'm a hunter and fisherman. I just went this year, and I did really, really good. I got a big Bambi. And I enjoyed every bit of it. A couple years ago, I was going to fish. I was going hunting on October the 1st, so I got ready to leave. I had my truck packed, and everything's gone. And they called me up and said, don't forget you got a workshop Saturday, and that was opening of deer season. And I said, I couldn't have done that on October the 1st. I don't do things in October. They said, well, we'll get somebody else. And I said, no, if I made a commitment, I would do that. I always keep my commitment. I would never say no to a commitment. So I went and did that, and while I'm down there, they come to me and said, listen, we need you to be here tomorrow. I says, for what? They said, Dick Tucson's 35th birthday, and he helped me a lot when I come in. They want you to chair the meeting. And I said, oh, shoot. I said, all right, I'll leave Monday. So I went and did this thing, and When I got done with the meeting, one of these idiots that I sponsor told me he was in serious trouble and he needed to spend some time with me the next day, and I thought, God. And then he started talking about suicide, and I understand that, and I said, that's cool. I'll be here tomorrow, but come over to the house early, and we'll get this thing over with so I can get out of here. See? And what I'm doing is, if you're new here, I'm just doing Alcoholics Anonymous. See, God had to keep me there, and I didn't know that. I didn't understand what was going on. But I don't say no in Alcoholics Anonymous. See, God can see the picture, and I can't. It's like the lamplighter in England. I can see where God's been, but I can't see where God's going. It's just the way it is. And so I went and I got him that morning. He was a lot worse than I thought he was. Took a lot more time, so I didn't get out of there. So I said, I'll go to bed early, and I'll get out of here Tuesday morning. And I'll turn the phone off, which I didn't do. And so I can't get no calls, and I don't do that. So I lay in there, and at 10 o'clock at night, my phone rang. And it was my daughter. And she said, Dad, I'm in bad shape. And I said, I know that. She says, you don't understand. The whole half side of my face is caved in. And I said, Debbie, did somebody beat you up? She says, no, I'm just drunk and high and hit the curb a lot. I said, you know, honey, I can help you get a car, an apartment, but I can't help you with this, but I know somebody that can. So I picked up the phone and I called some guys I sponsor. I told their wives, I said, I got a 12-step call for you. And they said, Debbie called. I said, yes, they did. When I picked these guys up out of detox, the first thing I say to them, do you smoke? They said, yeah, and I go get them cigarettes. When the last time you eat? Then I go feed them. They picked her up, and guess what they said to her? You got any cigarettes? And she said, no. When's the last time you eat, Debbie? And Debbie said, I can't remember. They told me they was going to bring her by my house, but for me to get prepared, because she really was looking bad, and she did, her whole side of her face and everything. And they talked her into going down to the Indigo in California, and so they asked me if I would drive her, so I did. And she stayed sober for almost 4 months. See, if I'd have had my way, I would have been out there on Saturday. I would have been gone. And she was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. And she liked it, but she's not one of us. She don't feel like that she's one of us. And that's the gift that I have. I was able enough to sit in this room long enough and do the steps of this cog fell in position. If you're new here and you're 3, 4, 5 years and you still got that hole in your gut, for God's sakes, don't leave. I was like 11 or 12 years old until the machine started running smooth. And once I made Alcoholics Anonymous the center of my life, I live in AA and I go hunting. I come back to Alcoholics Anonymous. I go see my friends, but I live inside of Alcoholics Anonymous and I go out to the world. That's what it's all about. Without you people, I have absolutely nothing going on. Nothing. I would be a dead man before you could blink an eye. It's the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous that's given me everything. I just retired for a kid that had no chance in nothing, 8th grade education. And when I retired from Caesar's Palace, they made a big thing, brought a big, huge rocking chair and sat in the middle of the pit, and all the games shut down. And they said, if you don't like retirement, give us 1 day notice and we'll put you back to work. That's the same guy that was 48 years old when I got the first thing that says, good for rehire. Tell you this story and I shut it down. My father told me this story when I was a kid. I always end my thing this way in honor of my father. There's a horse race in North Carolina. There's like 15, 16 kids. And whoever wins the race is the king for the year. And all the fathers are in the winning circle except one. He's in the barn. The guy in the barn says to him, why aren't you out there in the winning circle with all the rest of the fathers? And the guy looked at him and says, listen, if my son wins this race, he will not need me. But if he loses, I want to be here for him. I was glad you were here for me when I got here. Thank you very much.